Welcome everybody to the fourth webinar presented by AHANA. Today's webinar is titled Designing Communication Strategies and Updating Technology. This is going to be presented by myself and Nico Archer from DH. DH rebranded from Desato Hegi. And I'll let Nico do a little bit more of his own introduction when we pass the baton over to him. But it's been a pleasure to work with Nico on this presentation, and I think that you'll find it very informative. So Nico, if you would like to go ahead and share screen, and we will get started.
Fantastic, thank you. Well, happy to be joining you today. Again, my name is Nico Archer, and I'm Vice President at DH. And DH is a marketing and communications company based here in Spokane, Washington, and we work all throughout the Pacific Northwest and spend a lot of time working with organizations in the public sector, public health, government, etc. But I'm here today because we wanted to share some best practices for communicating during COVID, as I know that many of our small and mid-sized businesses are kind of trying to figure out, how do I prioritize my communications efforts during this time? So I've already told you a little bit about DH, but the background that I'm sharing is informed by a public relations, advertising, and branding lens. That's the work that we do here at DH. And so that's the sort of discipline that I'm approaching this conversation from. And I did share a little bit about the industries that we work with. Maybe one of you work in an industry that's listed here. These are just some of them. But we offer branding services, social change, advertising, public relations, digital, and research. And we've been around for a while. We're going on our 25th year here at DH. And so for today, the kind of format for this conversation, we wanted to just sort of start by orienting ourselves with what does it mean to be communicating in a crisis, because that is what the coronavirus is. And then we'll be sharing some best practices that we've highlighted for communicating through COVID. And then Marvo and I have pulled out some other examples that are specifically related to B2C businesses as well as B2B. And we'll reserve some time for Q&A at the end. But that's our agenda for today, and we'll dive right in. So this is a quote from the CEO of AT&T, John Stankey, and I think it just really sets the tone for why we're having this conversation. And it's the reality that we're all going to be returning to a different economic environment. We're going to be returning to different business models, and frankly, that's true for every business. And this is really prompted by the coronavirus crisis. And what we wanted to sort of start with is some framing around, what we see as the three stages of crisis communications. And it might, make sense to sort of reflect and think about your own organization and where you see yourself sort of oriented at this time. But at the beginning of this crisis, at the beginning of the year, January, February, March, we saw organizations largely in instructing mode, and what that requires is resolve. And it's businesses providing information to encourage calm and to help people stay safe and access what they need. And so our communications at that time are really focused just on facts, not speculations, clear instruction and communication. Those are, the best practices that sort of govern that instructing phase. I would say that where the majority of us are at today is this adjusting phase. And what that's requiring of us is resilience. And it's, as communicators, evolving the message from sort of the health basics to business recovery. We've, sort of established, different phases to help us sort of navigate, how we'll be doing business as communities. And we have guidelines in place that we're trying to implement or follow. And so we're shifting our focus now more toward longer term planning. We're wanting to tell stories of resilience, show where businesses have been succeeding and are being successful in adjusting their business practices at this time. And we're trying to kind of foster connection because we've been in this period of isolation, and sort of how do we safely re-engage with one another and build community. And I think that, where we could be planning for is this stage, which is really internalizing, which requires of us a lot of reimagination. And that's the point at which, we'll be hopefully looking back on this crisis and trying to make sense of it and its meaning and finding ways to move forward together. And so, this is an opportunity for businesses and communities to really be thinking about that new vision for the future, but also making sure that we're creating space to recognize and appreciate what's been lost, as many of our businesses are, struggling and many are not making it during this time. So just 3 stages of crisis communications. I think it's just good framing to keep in mind. And again, what we're talking about today largely applies to this transition from, adjusting to internalizing. So communicating through COVID. When we talk about communication strategy, it's really tempting to jump to things like, well, what are the emails I should be sending? And what should my website look like? And what should I be doing in social media? And we would call those the sort of tactics and strategies associated with your communication strategy. But at the heart of everything that we do from a communications lens is your business strategy. What we really encourage all businesses to do at this time is really revisit that business strategy and make sure that it still makes sense in light of everything that's shifted around us, and that you have a clear sense of your goals and objectives so that as you are prioritizing your communication strategy and your brand strategy, that you are making sure that that is serving kind of what the business needs first and foremost. And then around your brand strategy, developing all those marketing strategies and ultimately your tactics. So I know that it can be tempting sometimes to start here in the tactics space, but we really recommend that you go back to your business strategy and build outward with your communications plan. So the 5 sort of best practices that we'll be talking through today are these. We'll be asking you to reevaluate your brand, commit to innovation, prioritize customer experience, provide thought leadership, and support your workforce. And so we have some thoughts on each of these and some examples for you to follow. Reevaluating your brand. So brand can be kind of a tricky term because it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. At DH, we think of your brand as what ultimately identifies and differentiates you. It's the promises that you make as a business, and more importantly, it's the promises that you keep. And branding is your business intent and aspiration. It's your vision for the future. It's your hopes. And it's the feelings, images, and ideas that immediately come to mind when people think of you. So that's what we mean when we say brand. And at this time, these are the kinds of questions that we want you to be thinking about. First and foremost, are you putting people first? One best practice that's emerged is this idea of give now, earn later. And that might seem a little impractical, but it's the idea that everybody is sort of adjusting, but if you jump in and you participate in your community and you find ways to support people, that's kind of where your focus needs to be right now. And then you can be evolving your brand around earning later. So looking for ways to be helpful and be of service. And in the age of coronavirus, people really need to get you clearly and quickly, especially with the rise of e-commerce and m-commerce. And if you're not familiar, m-commerce is what we use to refer to mobile commerce. And it's slightly different from e-commerce in that everything's really restricted to the size of a phone. So, this idea of get you clearly and quickly matters. So if your brand language is complex, overly cumbersome, it might be a good time to go in and refine your language to make it as simple and as easy to understand as possible. Check your salesy tone. Customers at this time really need you to be transparent, open, and direct. And you'll see lots of examples of that in our marketing. There was an article that came out around the auto industry and some of the ads that they had released. The idea of we understand everybody's going through a really hard time right now, and that it might be difficult to afford, nice and expensive things, and you might be wary of making an investment, but you should buy a car. And the message just felt really salesy, and kind of gets this last point here that, didn't come across as necessarily relevant or considerate. And so be mindful of the choices that you're asking your customer to make at this time. And if they don't make sense, you risk losing your trust or losing your customer's trust. And so I want to just highlight examples, and you'll see lots of these throughout the presentation, both large corporate examples as well as a lot of local ones. We tried to highlight many of our local businesses. But this was H&M's response to the coronavirus, and they did lots of good things here from a brand perspective. First and foremost, they used their voice in service of others. So here is a social post from H&M, and they also gave very generously where they could. But they said, we're letting global aid organizations utilize our social media channels to share messages around health and safety during COVID. And today we're using the space to support the work of UNDP and Heart 17. So regularly creating space to promote health messages on behalf of others using their platform. Where they are being salesy, shop now, pay later. They recognize that payment might be an issue for people, so they've worked through different payment mechanisms, if you're a member of their loyalty program. And then also, even the products that they're highlighting. So redefining, or rebranding their offers as really being compatible with a work from home quarantine environment, the comfort zone. So this is right on their homepage. It's not about going out. It's not about, looking cute for a meeting or a special event. It's about being comfortable and, kind of well attired in your home. A local example is Washington Trust Bank, who've been leading with a lot of really great brand messages. And I love this one, built for times like these. They really got back to basics. I mean, this is what a bank is for. This is what financial experts are for, to help you in times like these get through. And I thought that this message was really simple and really in keeping with sort of their values as an organization, and a good reminder of how they relate to the pandemic. Also, just an example of what we here at DH did. Back in March, we launched a Here to Help campaign, and this is a live website that you could go to for lots of blog resources. But that's the value that we offer as an organization, is that we're here to consult, we're here to help. And so that's the message that we wanted to get out with from a brand perspective. The next best practice, committing to innovation. It seems obvious maybe, or maybe to others it might seem counterintuitive. Why, when we're just surviving, would we be innovating? But at this time, there's a lot of reasons why you should innovate, and a lot of ways to do that. One of which is that there's a real feeling of scarcity. So people are trying to conserve, they're trying to be really smart with their purchases. And we see this as a time when people are maybe being more open to trying different brands that might be a second tier or challenger brand. And so that actually creates a lot of opportunities for underdogs. And also luxury and symbols of status are being redefined. So clothes, attachments, and experiences that would normally define us are no longer practical or even accessible. So one of the questions to you is, how can you support at-home experiences that sort of give your customers the sense of luxury? Coronavirus has also created many new problems. And one of the best ways to innovate is to be a problem solver. And so taking a look around at your resources and capabilities and picking just one problem that COVID has created and trying to solve it with your unique tools or access is a great place to start. And lastly, on innovation, it demonstrates adaptability and it demonstrates ingenuity. And so when you do something innovative, you're actually creating excitement for your brand, and you're doing something that's newsworthy and that people are going to pay attention to, which is great from a marketing perspective. These are three great examples of businesses and brands that I think are doing some innovative things. Wild Sage, for example, created dining experiences to take home. And how this is different from just takeout or regular ordering is that it's a complete package. So it's a Taquito Tuesday special. And, it's a dozen Yukon Gold taquitos. You can get this margarita carafe with 2 glasses, or you can get their spicy lemonade instead. So it's a complete at-home package that, gives you kind of the bougie feeling of being out, but at home. And Dryfly, they retooled their distillery to great success to help solve a sanitizer shortage that we were experiencing in our community at the beginning of this crisis. And Hanes, put their fabric and their elastic bands to work, tackling discomforts of wearing a mask. So, it's not just that they're going to make masks, but they're going to make these masks cool, moisture wicking, breathable, make sure that it has the adjustable nose piece. So, thinking about different ways that you can solve problems at this time that sort of relate to your opportunities is a great place to start. Prioritizing customer experience. So customers at this time, they're weighing their options really carefully. And one of the things that you can do from a customer experience perspective is shorten the path to yes. And part of that, it's anticipating questions that your customers are going to have ahead of time. It's making sure all the information that factors into their sort of buying decisions are upfront and available at the front of the customer experience. You also want customers to feel safe. They're watching everything you and other customers do like a hawk. And sometimes they get out their phones and they record you doing it. So how can you reduce anxiety, protect their safety, and make them feel really secure in their choices? I think that a lot of local businesses are doing a great job of this, of making sure that PPE is abundant and available. They've reconfigured their stores. They're using outdoor dining spaces. And they're really demonstrating to customers, this is a safe place to do business. Expectations are also higher than ever. Customers feel like they're taking a risk just to support your business. And so how can you show your customers that you value them and really go above and beyond to express appreciation and gratitude for making that journey out and choosing your business to invest in? And one other thing too is that people also know these are exceptional times. So if you're going to be late, if you're running into a supply issue, if you're short-staffed, all you have to do is say so on social media, directly to your customers with a sign at your register. Be honest about your limitations and upfront about any inconveniences a customer might experience. They'll be understanding as long as you are proactively communicating those. And so here are just some great examples of local businesses that have done a good job, I think, with customer experience. London's Ultimate Catering, a catering company here in Spokane, when we all went into quarantine and they had to stop doing events, they surprised all their loyal customers with a special treat. They made a blood orange quarantini package and delivered that to some of their fans. And those fans shared their experiences using that quarantini at home, which was a really cool marketing tactic, but also just relationship building move on behalf of London's Catering. Italia Trattoria, they turned no-touch menus into a virtual experience. So since they can't have menus and it's sometimes really difficult to read a sign, they have this QR code that you can scan with your phone and have access to their latest menu. And then also House of Pop downtown, a lot of salons are being asked to go above and beyond with PPE. And I just think House of Pop did a really great job creating a safe salon experience and taking it to the next level. You can see that every individual station is done really nicely and simply and cleanly, but it feels safe and you feel like your health is really prioritized as a guest visiting that space. If you're wondering where to start with customer experience, you can download the Spread Kindness, Not COVID-19 campaign toolkit. This is at kindnessnotcovid.org. And there's lots of tools for you to use, like posters and signs that you can hang up in your business to demonstrate that it's a safe space and also to make a pledge to your customers that you're committed to keeping them safe. And here's just an example of all the things that are available to you as a business owner. You can see down below on the left-hand side where looks like Newport Hospital and Greater Spokane Incorporated have used pieces that are in that social toolkit to to share a message of safety with the community. Another thing that you can be doing right now is providing thought leadership. And thought leadership is really you sharing your expertise and your unique perspectives as an industry. And so how are those unique perspectives and experience helping people through tough times? What guidance can you offer your community that relates to coronavirus? Part of your challenge as a brand is to differentiate. So through thought leadership, you have the opportunity to show audiences how you actually think differently. You know, you might be a banker and everyone might think they understand what that means, but you know, through thought leadership, you can demonstrate your unique approach and ethos and hopefully make a unique connection with audiences. Also, at this time, many companies have gone dark or silent, so thought leadership is a great way to be visible where others are being invisible. Here are just a couple local examples. Washington Trust Bank has done a great job with their news section, highlighting blogs and articles that really add value to business owners. Everything from how to understand facial covering mandates to navigating stimulus checks to coronavirus aid, et cetera. And then Witherspoon Kelly has also been doing some webinars and some trainings, such as the Paycheck Protection Program webinar and training that they offered earlier this year. And Swedish Thoracic Surgery, so they're a hospital, and we know that hospitals have been struggling to get patients through the door for electives. So they did actually a promoted article. This is it being featured in the Spokesman, Swedish Thoracic Surgery, Partners in Patient Care, as a way to highlight their service lines and grow patient volumes. And then just a reminder that any thought leadership that you create, make sure you post that on LinkedIn or social media. Here's DH again, just posting our own blogs. Every time we publish a new blog, we make sure that makes it up onto LinkedIn for our audiences to access. And then lastly, you know, we really recommend that you double down on supporting your workforce. And, you know, this really comes back to trust. At the heart of the customer experience is trust. And we know that brand trust starts with your employees. This is from Edelman, but 78% of consumers say that how a company treats its employees is one of the greatest indicators of its trustworthiness. So at this time especially, how can you demonstrate good treatment of your employees to grow trust? We also know that many companies may have to lay off employees, if even temporarily. And a way that you can still do this is to be a great navigator and supporter of your employee as they're making that transition. One business that we're aware of, you know, when they had to let their workforce or temporarily lay off their workforce, actually made care packages for all their employees and sent them home, you know, with food and gas cards and grocery cards to just show them that they appreciate them and to help them through that transition. Here's some examples of how supporting your workforce and showing appreciation for them kind of helps you in a marketing perspective. This is Luna Spokane showing gratitude to their employees, thanking their chef, Taylor Siak, and the rest of their bread and pastry team. This is STA spotlighting their system administrators, and they use System Administrator Appreciation Day. So that's another great, you know, trick for you is to look out for those national days or local days of recognition to highlight different members of your team or staff. On the right-hand side, you see Greg Zaba from Lighthouse of the Blind shedding light on the unsung heroes who make your toilet paper. So they're talking about, you know, their blind workforce who's making toilet paper, which we know is really important right now. So those are just some examples how companies are actively appreciating their employees publicly, and that goes a long way toward building brand trust. So I just wanted to highlight three separate best practices. These are for B2C businesses specifically, things that we really recommend that you do at this time to get that competitive edge. The first is to consider going virtual, if you haven't already. The second, to create novel experiences. And third, to partner with other organizations to reach new audiences. Going virtual. I want to highlight Luna again because they did a great job, as a restaurant, a small business. They launched a new app to make online ordering easier, and then they promoted it on social media. So, looking into apps or sort of out-of-the-box digital tools that make your customers' lives easier is one way to think about going virtual. And then again, promoting it in a virtual space like social media. Another favorite of mine is actually a thrift store, Global Neighborhood Thrift, and they are killing it on social media. And they launched an Instagram shop through their stories. So they use direct messages, and I think they use Venmo to handle transactions and collect payment. And it's really cool. If you follow them on Instagram, they post, like 20 products a day or something like that, maybe more. And if you like one of those products, you just reply to them and you arrange for payment and pickup. So, if you have a small boutique or if you manage inventory like this, this is a fun and engaging way to give people an at-home shopping experience. And it's kind of competitive too, because you want to be the first one to respond when you see something that you like. Creating novel experiences. So, one of the best ways to get visibility is to get your fans and your followers talking about you. So, if your customers are surprised and delighted, they're going to talk about those experiences in their networks. And I think that 9 Bar and Bistro has done a really great job of creating novel experiences that make their customers want to talk about what they're doing. For example, they recently had an Elvis-inspired French toast, which they served at brunch. They created these innovative cocktail kits. So they sell these, I think they're, or at least they were, sold in like a bucket where they had all the ingredients that you would need to have sort of a cocktail night at home in a bucket ready to pick up and take home. But then, with the beverages that they are serving, kind of making a statement out of them and making them something noteworthy. So, they have this watermelon beverage and it's served with a giant slice of watermelon. That's not something that you see every day. And so all of these things are things that people would want to take pictures of, talk about on social media. They're novel and they're special. And they also just bring joy to your customers at a time when they really need that joy. The last recommendation for B2C audiences is partnering to reach new audiences. When you partner with another business, you are tapping into an audience that they've already worked to grow and a fan base that is loyal to them. And so I just wanted to highlight Spiceology, which is doing something really cool where they've partnered with Loop Commerce and Pixley. And they are a local Spokane business that makes spices. And they're creating virtual culinary team building experiences. So, this is ticking a few of those boxes that we talked about earlier. They're being relevant, they're being innovative, they're partnering. And so by working with these 2 other organizations, they're going to get instant sort of exposure to their audiences when Loop and Pixley promote this. And they're also kind of creating a new solution, right? This virtual team building through culinary experiences that businesses frankly really need right now because we can't do things like happy hours and team lunches and that sort of thing. So I thought this was a really cool way for Spiceology to do something different and stand out. So I'm going to pass it over to Marvo to talk about some B2B best practices.
Nico went over many great recommendations in his part of the presentation. Some of the recommendations for the B2C or the business to consumer can also be transferred over to the business to business, the B2B practices. So I didn't want to repeat a lot of the same things. So if what you saw in the B2C, business consumer part, makes sense for you as a business to business owner, if that's your client base as business to business, then go ahead, by all means, try that out. Because this is what this is all about right now, is being innovative and trying to do something different in this particular time. Let me just tell you a little bit about my company. Thinking Cap is a small marketing and design and communications company that was started in 1999. I basically started this as a home-based business, and then when I moved out of the home base, I rebranded and started my company downtown in 1999. My customer base is primarily nonprofit and business to business. In about 2017, we did a bit of a pivot in our business model and started providing management services for membership associations. So it's a little bit of a oddball marketing and managing, but what we found in managing associations is that there's a lot of communications that become part of what needs to happen. So it became a really good pivot for us. We are a certified OMWBE and LGBT business. I do want to do a shout out to Desitel Hagi, or DH, because they started out also OMWBE, and I believe that you still are OMWBE, but they started out as minority based because of Jim Desitel having the Native American background, and now their leadership is primarily women, and so they now have the women part of OMWBE and continuing to do a lot of great work in that arena. So thank you. And Nico also shared that they have a very strong diversity culture now within DH, working for diversity and anti-racism and things like that. So I really appreciate that Nico is available to lend their expertise as a larger marketing company for what they're doing in our region. So B2B, you are either surviving or struggling right now. So it all depends on what your customer base is doing. If you are surviving, it may mean you are trying to look and adapt at different modes of communications, either within your company, with clients, and with others. And if you're struggling, you're still needing to do the same thing, but how do you start to adapt to that? If you are just completely dead in the water, with no business, take advantage of doing the partnering example that Nico gave as an example earlier. Find a way to, is there a service that you can provide in a different industry, and then start partnering with somebody that you may know, or find someone that you may know in that industry and partner with them and see what opportunities are available for you. So the three things I want to talk about are face-to-face, one-on-one customer communications, group video meeting platforms, and internal company communications. So the face-to-face, one-on-one communications. You most likely have an app on your smartphone that allows you to do something very quickly. Skype was up very quickly. FaceTime is on the Apple platform. WhatsApp is an app that is used a lot in the international market because it's free. So essentially, you can make free international long-distance phone calls to your family or to businesses if you are communicating that way, or if you have businesses that are outside of the United States. So that's a really good way to do that, and you can do that either by chat or through video. And as you can see on the example there, you are literally doing kind of what we're doing right now in a webinar, is seeing face-to-face versus doing it just by phone. The advantage of that is that pre-COVID, a lot of people, a lot of businesses and their clients would just say, hey, could you get together? Let's get together and have some coffee at 10 o'clock to discuss this little project that we're doing. That's really not available all the time for us right now, depending on what phase we are in. So perhaps, a video conferencing off your phone might be the best way to do it. The other two that are available is Facebook Messenger that just started becoming available. So for those of you who are on Facebook a lot, within the chat program or the messaging program, you now have the video option to be able to start saying, hey, let's stop chatting and let's go video, and then you can see each other doing that. The last one that I want to point out, and there are many more than these fives, but the last one that I want to point out is one called Marco Polo that kind of caught my interest. And this allows you to do a video message that can be sent later to your customer or whoever you need to send it to. So, you know, it might be 11 o'clock at night and you might decide, hey, I want to send a message to my client that they get first thing in the morning, but I didn't want to be as impersonal as doing it as a chat. So you can literally say, hey, Nico, I think it'd be great if we could have a conversation tomorrow morning after your 9 o'clock appointment that I know that you have. So give me a call once that's done. And then you send that and it comes up on their Marco Polo. And so instead of for him reading it or your client reading it, he's going to see that actual message that you sent him, just as though, you know, you were communicating face to face. So it kind of sets up that very natural wanting to talk aspect of it. If you're familiar with Snapchat, that's kind of the same thing. It's basically video messaging that's out there, but with Snapchat, those messages go away after a certain point in time. But with Marco Polo, they do not go away. So group video meeting platforms, everybody is familiar with Zoom. And as you can see in the example up there in the corner, that's a example of a Zoom meeting that I had with a client. But Zoom is not the only platform that's out there. WebEx is out there. The city uses WebEx whenever they have video conferencing with their clients or groups of people. Google Meet is starting to come along. BlueJeans is another one that's out there that's very similar to Zoom. I've been using that with a client. Microsoft Teams, getting a lot of advertising exposure on TV right now. And so if you are communicating or using that Microsoft platform, I shouldn't say platform, but software, and it's the business software that you need to have, then you already have that as part of your additional software within Office Business 364, or is it 365? So that would be available for you right away, and you wouldn't have to go and purchase an additional application to do that. And then, of course, there's Skype that everybody has. That was probably the first ones out of the box that everybody's familiar with. In my sample of the one that I have with my client, this was a webinar that they used or that they created. And for this particular client, they would typically want to do a face-to-face in-person meeting. And this is a group of, it's a professional organization of psychologists. And telepsychology was heard of and started to be used prior to COVID-19. But once that happened, a lot of psychologists had to switch and pivot real quickly to be able to start providing their therapy online to their clients because they could not meet in person. And also with continuing education as part of what they needed to do as a profession, a lot of the continuing education that they were doing was in person versus online, but they had to quickly pivot and start to do them online. So it became a very quick learning experience for them to learn how to do it and understand that within this particular platform that there was a couple different variations. So you could have Zoom meeting or Zoom webinar, depending on how you wanted to control the audience participation in that. The other thing that you need to understand when you start to look at a video platform are some considerations. Um, if you go online and you Google, or I shouldn't say Google, if you do a web search on considerations for platforms, you're going to get a number of different recommendations. But primarily what I saw were understand the number of attendees that you're normally going to have with using a video platform, understand if there's a security or privacy need. And so I bring that example up because with my clients being psychologists who are providing therapy to their clients, they needed to make sure that their connection was HIPAA compliant. So that was very, very specific, and very specific in the way of privacy and security that they needed to have. And so not all of the video platforms will have that, and you'll need to understand if you do need to have some security issues, what they are, and if that platform can provide that for you. Of course, the quality, the call quality and the user experience is going to be very important. As we saw, Nico had a little bit of an internet blip and got pulled off of the presentation a little bit earlier. But that's the nature of what we're living in today. So quality user experience. And also I'm going to add, what is the Wi-Fi connectivity considerations that you need to have? So if someone does not have Wi-Fi or have very, very low Wi-Fi, is Zoom or these other platforms the correct platform for you to use? And then of course, price. There are the free versions that are out there. Typically they will limit the amount of time that you can spend, but not always. Zoom has a timeline, but a couple of the other ones don't have a timeline on how much time you can spend on the free ones. But the subscription-based platforms will give you a lot more bells and whistles that you can use. So internal communications is something, as a small business, you need to start to consider, especially if you have been used to being in an office situation and you're used to being able to just walk to the next office and talk to your colleague, or pick up the phone if you were in a little bit larger situation and call the person in an office down the hall or whatever. And that has now have to change with everybody now working from home. And we don't know when it's going to be safe for everybody to come back into the building and work together. Google has already announced that they won't be bringing people into into office settings until 2021. So, we have a bit of time before something is going to change here. So there are a couple different options that you have out there. Here are 6 that I have found. Slack is a business communication platform that is currently used in my office. It was a platform that I heard about a couple years ago. I wasn't quite sure if it was something that I wanted to implement, but right now I can't imagine doing business without Slack. It's a very nice tool that allows you to be able to chat with your colleagues and your employees on particular projects or clients, so that you can keep the conversation separately. We can share files and do things like that. But as I started to do the research, what I found about Slack, that the competitors are doing, is that they are now starting to integrate other things that I now wish that Slack had. So I'm now at an opportunity where I'm discovering, well, I really love what Slack is doing, but I really wish that there was some task management that was involved with this, so that if there was a project that we're working on and we say, yeah, we need to have this done by this particular date, we can now put it on a calendar within that particular platform, and that becomes that overall calendar that you're there. And also, if we were talking, now some of them include a way to also not have to go on to Zoom. You can automatically turn a chat into a video conferencing. So automatically within the same application, you can move from chat to video versus saying, okay, let's do this so that we can see face to face, or show, so I can share a screen. And so instead of her saying, okay, let me log into Zoom or whatever platform you're at, you just click a button and then both of you come up and then you're able to see each other to do that. So the other ones that are there, as you can see, the other 6, Google Hangouts, that's part of a Google suite. A lot of people have a Google account. Chanty is another one that's incorporating the video platform. Flock is out there. I understand that this is available in several different languages, including Spanish and Portuguese. So if you're doing a lot of business, or if you have business that is outside of the country in different languages, that might be one that you take a look at. Of course, Microsoft Teams, that's getting a lot of attention. They were doing a lot of advertising on that on TV. And then River Communications, that is one that I'm actually starting to take a look at. A lot of team communications there, task management, and also video applications as well. So this is just a screen grab of my Slack channel. As you can see on the left-hand side, these particular channels are either clients or projects that we're working on. And this particular stream that you're seeing is talking about the virtual convention that we're working on for this particular client. My graphic designer presented a graphic that we can use. This is kind of a placeholder graphic, but we needed it to go into some communication blasts, having it resized. And so you can see kind of the communications between 3 of us right away. And then on the right-hand side, there was a thread that I was following. So it allowed me to do a couple different things at the same time, looking at 2 different projects that we were working on concurrently. Nico, do you want to add anything to the rest of the presentation now that we've been able to do this together? And I want to thank you again for participating.
Oh, my pleasure. I think that there are a lot of ideas in this deck, and would challenge any one of you to grab onto 1 or 2 that you maybe thought was interesting and try to do it yourself. One of the things that we tried to focus on was making sure that every recommendation that we put forward is something that you could do on your own. You'll see in a lot of the examples that we highlighted, this is just somebody using the social media tools available to them, getting creative with an out-of-the-box app program. We'll share this, and I'm sure if any of those businesses did something that you thought was interesting, you could probably reach out to them and learn a little bit more about that. But we're always available to you separately.
Great.
Excellent presentations, Nico and Marvo. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everybody.